Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus and welcome to a new month. It's August, it's the 1st of August. So I hope you had a great trading week for July. I caught crazy moves in July, like those were like really good swings. So here's the first day of August and let's see what this month has to offer. And before looking at the price action, looking at the DXY, looking at gold and everything, let's do a quick trade recap and I'll show you the position I had from this week or from last week, and then we'll take it from there. Alright guys, so here's a quick trade recap thing. So still we're looking at gold. That was a pair I was trading this week and I was trading last week as well, and there's a pair I've been trading for some time now. I haven't been looking at the indices, NAS, S&P and the other ones, because it's just been a little bit shaky for me, and we decided in the community to just look at gold for some time. So here's a position thing I had, and I spoke about this position last week right here. So I had this entry right here. My anticipation was to see prices coming into an area like this. Now unfortunately price hasn't gotten to this point, but if you've been looking at the price chart thing, we actually had a push to the downside, but there was an inability for prices to close below this area. So I was just a few pips away from the target point. But this area right here, where you look at this stop right here, like the rejection thing, this was my primary target thing. But because I'm swing trading, there's always a possibility of a price to go through and go further than the projected target thing for me. So I always have my targets open just so I can see how price is reacting around areas like this. So my anticipation was to see prices coming down, taking out this area, so just giving you a movement to the downside, taking out this area and then going a little bit further before the retracement thing coming in, or just getting this area taken out, and after that you can get the reversal thing. Now we did see price coming down, so the price actually came down, but there was an inability for prices to go through this area right here, and there was a sharp reversal thing after the NFP news thing today. Now when I saw online, I saw lots of people complaining, like they were crying, I've blown my account, I've blown my funded account, I've blown my personal account, my savings account. And I just sat back and I was looking at them like, how do you even blow your account if you have like the good risk management thing? Because if you have your risk management in place, you shouldn't be risking like crazy. And even if you're risking crazy, it's not like the entire thing. So it was really troubling just seeing the number of people complaining and crying about their accounts getting blown. Now when you look at this position, I'll take a quick look at the charts as well, and you see I had my stop loss move to break even. I think I mentioned it right here. So the initial entry thing, yeah, here was the initial entry. So the anticipation was to see prices coming to the downside. Then I had my stop loss move to break even once we had this initial push to the downside. And I was like, cool, there's no way price is just going to come back to this area before moving down again. So I had to put my stop loss to break even. And right now, price has just done a complete U-turn. So after the NFP news thing, price has done a complete U-turn. Now, when the news event was released, I wasn't looking at the chart. I only came later on and then I saw the U-turn thing. I was like, damn, that was crazy, because it was a sharp turn to the upside, and everything, like the position I was holding for the entire week, like you can look at all the profits have been wiped out. But that's something that comes with swing trading. It's always going to give you these highs and these lows, and as per my system, I had no right to close the position at that time. So it's just waiting and seeing what price does, and then I react. So that's a trade recap thing right there. This position might just stop me out at the break even, and then we'll just reanalyze again, look for more positions and take entries. All right guys, let's get to the business of the day. Let's look at the DXY and let's look at gold. Alright guys, so here's the DXY, and let's start from the weekly time frame. And this is very interesting right now. So when you look, like every week when you come and look at the price chart, there's just a lot of information that comes in. There's a lot that happens when price prints new candles, and the story just gets better. Sometimes it gets confusing, like right now it could look a little bit confusing, but let's try to dissect this and see if we can make sense out of this. And for the longest time we've been talking about this structure already. It's an impulse thing, it's a correction thing, or a consolidation. It's an impulse and then price is coming back to the downside. looks like a consolidation. So if this is a consolidation, where is price most likely going to head to? We should see prices moving again to the upside, because you're having this area right here. There's a bounce off of this area, there's a bounce off of this area, and it's just a footprint of the big boys, and price came back to this area, and it looks like there's another bounce off of this area right here. So looking at it from the weekly time frame, if this is an impulse and a correction, where is price most likely going to head to? We're looking at 110, this psychological level thing right here. But the thing that makes this interesting is because we haven't gone through 100 flat, so we actually tested 100, and there's still this inability for the DXY to go through 100, so it makes it a little bit interesting right there. So let's clean this. So we're looking at this on the weekly time frame. So what can we draw from this time frame? So what are some things we can take away from this time frame? So if you look at this, first of all, we're coming off of this channel thing right here. You have a channel, simply the trend line in both directions. So you're looking at the bounce off of this area right here. It's a pivot point, that's how I call it. And this area right here is a pivot point as well. Now, people call pivot points differently, and they trade pivot points differently. But this for me is a pivot point right here, where the decision was made and then the buyers took off. So prices come back to this area, and this again looks like a pivot point. So you're just going over what price did previously. So there's another pivot point, and we're expecting prices to move again to the upside. So when you look at this, the anticipation looking at the DXY is for prices to move to the upside unless something happens. So the anticipation, we want to see prices moving to the upside. Unless there's an inability for prices to go through this area, then you might see prices breaking out to the downside and pushing all the way to the next psychological level, which is 90,000. So just looking at it from the weekly time frame, my bias stays the same. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Let's go. Now, come back. So looking at it from the weekly time frame, the bias stays the same. We're still looking at prices moving to the upside. Now, there's been a clear rejection at 100 flat, the psychological level thing right here. There's been a clear rejection thing at this area. So the news event came out today. Price spiked to the upside, and still this inability for prices to go through 100 flat. So I was looking at the previous price action thing and just seeing how price reacted once we came back to the pivot point. So if you compare this piece right here, and we're trying to do a comparison like right here. So if you look at this push, you had sellers coming in, and there was this inability to move prices to the downside. Then you had a burst from the buyers, another inability from the sellers again. Then the buyers took prices to the upside. So if you look at the same thing right here, you've seen prices making lower lows and lower highs, lower lows and lower highs. And this is the first time we've seen this channel thing, like the movement to the downside, the counter movement thing to the downside. It's the first time we've really seen it break out of this area like impulsively and even testing 100. So there's a high possibility we might see, let's say, some consolidation thing or slow movement from the sellers. And if there's still an inability for prices to go through this area right here, then we should expect another reversal thing, so prices can then move to the upside. So once you start putting all these things together, you can move down to lower time frames and actually see what's happening. So let's step down to the daily time frame. So you're looking at the rejection thing right here at this area of 100 flat. So if you look at the counter trend thing, you had prices moving to the downside, you had lower lows and lower highs. Simple, lower lows and lower highs. Then you had this inability for prices to move to the downside, in as much as we was taking out this area right here, but we didn't take this area out impulsively. So that was a concern for me right there. Then we had a breach of this area. We had prices testing again to the downside. Now you had this impulsive move to the upside. Now there's an inability for prices to go through 100, but at the same time, you can see the buyers kicking in. So buyers are trying to step in right now. So if I was to look at the DXY and say, all right, cool, what is the DXY going to do? Let's say short term, coming into next week. Now with this sales coming in from this area of 100 flat right here, with this sales coming in, I'm looking at the sales coming in, but at the same time, I know this sales is only coming in because we had the buyers from the opposite direction. So my intention right now is to fit this sales coming in. Once there's an inability from the sellers, then we could see the buyers stepping in again, so they can take prices to the upside. So that's what I'm looking on the DXY, just the inability of prices to go through 100 flat, the psychological level. And here, this one, like, there's a textbook thing right there. So you get a strike at the 100 level, psychological level. There's an inability for prices to go through. So now prices is coming down. So you can see the sellers in control. Like, I think it's a temporal thing, and we should expect buyers to kick in again anytime from now. So this could simply be an inability for prices to go through 100. You get a pull back to the downside, and then you see a reversal with the buyers taking prices again to the upside. So that's on the daily time frame. On the 8-hour time frame, same thing. Sellers are still coming in like crazy. So you had the spike at 100, impulsive movement to the downside. So my intention coming into next week is just show me this inability for prices to move to the downside, and then we can see prices moving to the upside. Because after every impulse like this, it doesn't mean the sellers are just taking over the market right now. You could see sellers coming in, but then if you fit the sellers, then you can time when the buyers are going to kick in again. So there's still a high possibility, because once you look at psychological levels, there's been an inability for prices to go through this area. The price is still going to test that psychological level of 100, like 100,000. It's just the way price moves sometimes. You want to see price coming back, testing this area. And if there's still an inability for prices to go through 100, then you could say, all right, cool, we're just taking prices all the way to the downside. So that's something I'm looking at right there on the DXY. Let's look at the 4-hour time frame. Same thing on the 4-hour time frame. It's not different from what's happening on the 8-hour time frame. And if you look at the hourly, so it's the same thing. Perfect. But now on the hourly time frame, you start seeing the waves coming in. So we've had an impulsive move. So you're looking at this, it's an impulsive move to the downside. I'm just going to zoom in on this piece of price action. All right, perfect. So you have this movement right here after the news effect thing, impulsive movement to the downside. There's been a pullback to an area like this. So right now I'll be looking at how these lows have been taken out, and if price starts struggling to take out the lows, so let's say we take out the lows, but it's just a shallow break to the downside, you get another push to the upside, and you still see price breaking down but the impulse is not as compared to this one. And this can tell you already, like, there's just that difficulty for prices to come down, and you might expect a reversal thing to come in. So this is something I'll pay attention to, how a price is taking out these lows and up until the point where there's that inability, and then you can see prices spiking again to the upside. So that's my analysis right there on the DXY. I'm still expecting a movement back to the upside, because if you look at this, yeah, I'll zoom out a little bit. If you look at this, we're just coming up of this impulsive move to the upside. So if you put your trend line thing, around this area like this, price has taken out this trend, but at the same time you want to see price testing these highs again. So that's it. So you're still expecting prices to come back, testing this area, and inability for prices to go through, then you can see prices dropping to the downside impulsively as well. All right guys, so that's my analysis right there on the DXY. So I'm just going to keep it this simple and see how the sales are coming in on the DXY, and I'll fit the sales on the DXY. Now pay attention to this piece right here. So how is price going to move to the downside? Is it moving to the downside impulsively, or is it struggling to make new lows? Once it starts struggling, it's going to get to a point where there's an inability for prices to move down. Then we can capitalize on this movement again to the upside. So that's it right there for me on the DXY, and let's look at gold. All right guys, so let's look at gold. Let's start from the daily time frame this time. All right, cool. So we're still looking at this price action right here, and I think it's getting really better right now. So let's look at this piece of price action. So bigger picture thing, price is moving to the upside. You can't even argue that. So you're looking at this movement thing, impulse correction. There's been an impulse, and there's been this consolidation thing, but within this consolidation there's like trends, like crazy trends, and you can take crazy swing moves within this consolidation as well. So looking at it from the daily time frame, where is price at and where is price most likely gonna head to? So we were sat here looking at this a couple of weeks back, and price came through 3,000, And the anticipation with this pair was to see prices moving all the way to 4,000. But we had an inability for prices to go through this area right here. And ever since then, you can say price has been trading within this area right here. It's a push to the upside right here. It's a push to the downside. Inability to go higher, inability to come lower, inability to go higher, inability to come lower as well. So perfect. Now let's break this down a little bit further. So looking at this on the daily time frame, where is price most likely going to head to? So the gold is still very bullish. So if you had to look at this on lower time frames, then you understand within this massive consolidation thing, the swing moves you can take within this piece of price action. So we'll look at this, let's say on the 8-hour time frame real quick. So here's what I was looking at on the 8-hour time frame. We had this massive swing to the upside, then you had a violation thing, and there was an inability for prices to move to the downside. Buyers kicked in. There was an inability for prices to go higher than this, and that was it. Sellers came in at this point. So I was sat here looking at this and saying, all right, cool. If there's an inability for prices to go through this highs, inability for prices to go through the highs again, we might be sitting within this channel thing. So at the time when I was looking at this, I was expecting prices to then come back to this area, and then we get an inability from here. Then you can see the impulsive movement to the upside. So I wasn't expecting just a shallow break to an area like this and a complete reversal. So now my bias at this time is still going to be controversial. I don't think most people align or will look at prices this way. I still believe gold is going to come back to the downside for us to then take the bias that's going to take out these highs. I might be completely wrong, but I'm just looking at prices the way I've been looking at prices, and I'm not going to switch my bias or my analysis because of what people are doing or what people are saying. So here's my analysis again. You have this impulsive move to the upside. You had prices coming down. There was an inability, price going up, still this inability, and we had prices pulling back to an area like this. This is the first time. So oops, let me clean this thing. Yeah, so if you look at this piece right here, we started selling from around the 22nd of July. So here's just the first time we've had a break out of this area right here. If you look at this movement to the downside, here's the first time we're seeing this impulsive break to the upside. So for a couple of days, we've been sat within this movement to the downside, and there's the first time we've seen prices breaking out. So personally, when I see something like this, it tells me there's lots of people that's going to hop in trying to buy gold at this time, whereas you can actually sit and wait for the pullback to come in, giving you a better price, or at least showing you that there's an inability for prices to go through this area. So you need to see this counter move. So the buyers have done this, so we need to see what the sellers are going to do. So are the sellers still interested? Like the guys who took these sales from here, are they still interested in taking prices to the downside? You need to give these guys another attempt to see what they're trying to do, because right now everybody's just going to hop in and trying to buy this pair, and every pullback that comes in, I'm very sure people will try to buy this. But I'm going to sit on my hands a little bit. If I see an opportunity to sell, I'm still going to sell this pair, because after this impulsive move, you need to get, let's say, correction thing. You need to get better prices for then the buyers to then kick in. So it's just a displacement thing that's happening right now, and it's going to throw lots of people off. So personally, I'm not going to buy gold at this time. I want to see prices coming back to the downside, showing me that there's an inability, like a proper inability thing, for prices to go lower. Because we might see let's say an inability at this point, and you see a complete reversal thing. You see a complete reversal. You see prices coming out, taking out this area, still giving you the same bounce thing we was expecting here, and you see prices moving again to the upside. So that right there is a very big possibility, and I've seen this happen countless times. So if you start looking at something like this, there's still this possibility for price to give you this structure right here, something like this, and you just get the delivery thing. So you see this push, you see this inability, you see price coming back to the downside. Now you have this point right here, and you see prices moving again to the upside. So that's something I'm still looking at. That's something I've been trading for some time. So I'm still gonna stick with my bias thing. I'm not gonna switch it. So that's my analysis right there when it comes to gold on the higher time frame thing. Now this hasn't happened, and I need to see how this inability kicks in. So there's a pattern I'm looking for. So if I can get this reversal pattern thing around this area, and then I'm gonna sell gold again. Now once I sell this, I'm gonna look at areas like this, and I'm gonna look at areas like this, because those are all possibilities for us to sell, taking out these areas, then giving us the movement thing to the upside. So right now we're still moving to the upside, just a temporal move thing, and I'm just gonna watch this. Most likely the position I had from last week is going to stop me out of the break even. That's fine, and I'll still reattempt the sales again if I see an opportunity to do so. All right, cool. So yes, on the 8 hour time frame, there's just lots of talking this time. There's no real management thing. So as you move down to the 4 hour time frame, now you can see, like, here's the thing I've been talking about. Yeah, so if you're sat here on the 8 hour time frame, now look at the read on the 8 hour time frame. It's an impulse thing. First reaction from the sellers, impulse thing, reaction again from the sellers. There's been an inability. If you consider this as a channel thing, that's your channel right there, and you're expecting another push to this area right here. So you're still expecting prices to give you the next displacement again to the downside. And there's just a lot of things you can look at. First of all, yeah, everybody who did, or most of the people who did the buys earlier today or from yesterday, there's lots of stop losses around this area. So there's lots of areas where price can just come back, liquidate these areas, and start moving again to the upside. Those who did the buys here, if you was holding your positions a little bit longer, you still have stop losses around these areas. So there's still reasons why price can come back to this area. So now everybody sat here looking at this, or most people might be sat here looking at this, the movement thing to the downside, there's a break to the upside. Now everybody says, all right, cool, we're headed to the upside. But me, personally, I'm going to say no. I'm waiting for prices again to come back to the downside. I want to see these areas taken out. Once we can take out these areas, then I'll be expecting the movement thing to the upside. I'm going to join the crowd at that time. So that's it, just looking at it from the 8 hour time frame. If you then step down to the 4 hour time frame, so let's see what's happening on the 4 hour time frame. So we had this channel thing moving to the upside right here. That's your channel thing right there. So you had this channel moving to the upside. So the first displacement, again, I'm still going to highlight on this piece of price action. You had this movement to the downside. Here's the first displacement. Everybody sees this happening. We might get a rejection at this point right here. We might get a rejection at this point. Then comes a movement thing to the downside, taking out this area and taking out this area as well. So personally, that's what I'm looking out for coming into next week. So if I see opportunities to sell, I'll most likely sell back into these areas, taking out first this piece right here, and then next taking out this area, and for us to see prices moving again to the upside. So that's my game plan right there. So there's something I'm going to look at right now. I'll pay attention to this trend line right here. So if price comes back to an area like this, it's a simple break and retest thing. So that's how people call it. Yeah, it's a break, it's a retest, and for us to see prices moving again to the downside. Now don't get me wrong, yeah, I still have this bias for gold to move to the upside, but I'm just saying temporarily, this is what I'm expecting. The movement first to the downside, taking out the stop losses. Here's the first displacement thing that's just happening. Like, that's a first sign. All right, cool, buyers are really interested again. So let's see what the sellers can do. Once we fit the sellers, then we can take the buy. So fitting the sellers is simply looking at how the sales come in. Now, if the buyers are really interested and they get a better discount thing and they don't want to see price going below areas like this, that's fine. You'll see price coming down. You'll see, let's say, channel, you can put your trend lines. Once you get a break testing, then you're looking for buys again to the upside. But personally, I'm not going to buy from an area like this. It doesn't make sense. It's like the price at this point, it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to wait for better prices, wait for prices to come down. Then I can look for buying opportunities again. That's on the 4 hour time frame. So let's look at the 2 hour time frame. So if you look at my position thing right now, this is most likely going to stop me out at break even right there. So that's crazy. Now I'm sat here looking at this and I'm So the initial entry thing had to be at an area like this, which I missed. So I'm not really worried about this one, because if I got in at a better price, this pullback thing will not really bother me like that. But because I didn't get in at the best price, which was an area like this, I didn't get in at this point. So I didn't get in at an area like this. So I got in right here. Did the sell thing now. It's a yield thing coming back. It's most likely going to stop me at break even. And again, I couldn't even manage this because I was sleeping when this news event got released and everything. So I just woke up and saw prices here at this point right here. So cool, it's probably going to stop me out at break even, and then we'll look for selling opportunities again to the downside. So let's look at this a little bit, and I'll show you guys what I'm looking at right now. So how do you get involved in a situation like this? First things first, pay attention to what's happening right here. As the buyers kick in after the news event thing, once you step down to lower time frames, you notice first there's an impulse thing. Then you have to look at how these highs have been taken out, because if the highs are taken out progressively and there's an inability for the highs to make impulsive movements to the upside, it just tells you a reversal is coming in. So you can start pairing this reversal thing with this trend line right here, like the counter trend line thing. You can pair it with something like this. So as price is making new highs, how is price making new highs? It's going to pull back again. It's going to make another high. So you have to compare it. Like you look at this impulse thing. Why is there a pullback? There's an inability to make a proper high. There's a pullback inability to make a proper high. There's a pullback inability to make a proper high. Once you see something like this happening around this area, perfect. Then we can go in for sales again. So that's something I'll be looking out for coming into next week. So you can look at this on the hourly time frame, and that's it right there. So here's the first wave thing right here. Impulse, there's a correction. So I'm looking at this. So you can see the highs is taken out already. It's not a proper break. It's a shallow break, but it's Friday already. So let's see what happens on Monday. Early hours of Monday. So give it like this on the hourly time frame. Give it maybe 8 hours. If the movement to the upside is not impulsive, if it's just struggling, pulling back, struggling, pulling back, that inability right there, then we're taking prices again to the downside. So it's going to be a sell thing for me coming into next week. And again, I might be completely wrong, but I have to stick with my buyers. I'm sorry for this one. I have to stick with my buyers. I have to stick with the white looker prices. And yeah, we'll take it from there. All right, guys, so that's my analysis right there. And it's most likely going to be a break even on this one. And we'll take it from there next week. So let's see. As usual, make sure you're patient, make sure you're consistent with your analysis, and above everything, make sure you're praying. All right, guys, I'll see you during the next one. Yeah, bye for now.